Clean water gets funded. A kid's notebook in South Sudan doesn't. And that's a thing I'm going to try and fix. Hi, I'm Dan. I have been hired by this small nonprofit that are run by some friends of mine, Shannon and Ash. And last episode, I talked about us getting to know each other and finding out that they are criminally underfunded. So my job is I'm going to try and help them raise $200,000 by August, and the clock is ticking. And so I'm going to show you a little behind the scenes of everything that they're doing. They're working in 4 different countries on 2 continents. And so let's get started. So there's actually a hierarchy when it comes to charity and nonprofits or fundraising. There are some things that are really photogenic and they are easy to raise money for. But one of the first things I ever raised money for was homelessness. Homelessness is not necessarily very sexy, and I'm using that word pejoratively, but it is important. I think homelessness is a real issue, especially affects every person in LA. Every Angelino can talk to you about the homeless people that are in their neighborhood and what they're doing, because it's the way of the world here. And so there are a lot of agencies that are working with homelessness, but it is fraught with a lot of kind of bad ideas about how things happened. And so as a result, there's some backlash usually when you're trying to fundraise for homelessness, especially we've had homelessness for like 120 years here in LA, and it's still around, and we've thrown a lot of money at it, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. It feels that way. I know that I know personally actually that there are a lot of people working on this issue, and they're doing incredible work. But same goes internationally. There are some things that are not very photogenic and very fun. There are some things that, when we feed people, that usually helps out. But when we want to educate kids, that is not as, it's not as gripping, even though, an education is such a huge thing and it will change an entire community, but it takes 10 years. You've got to educate kids. You've got to wait. They've got a readiness. There's this whole thing. Whereas like if I dig a well, water is really photogenic. I can put money down, I can build a well, and there are some great organizations that they've revolutionized the whole business of fundraising for specific causes. And I am not throwing shade on them. I think we should be taking care of all of this stuff. But I think that South Sudan specifically, one of the toughest places in the world to even be, it's even harder to raise money. So anything you can put on a poster in 5 words, very helpful. It's photogenic. I can, kind of stamp it. I can make it cool. People can decide in just a second, instead of like, I'm going to change this community and it's going to take time. I'm going to invest in a whole lot of people. That's going to take time. It's not very sexy to talk about it. I think it's the solution, but it's not very sexy. So the work I'm helping with is not that.
Because it's kind of a weird thing to say. It's like, it's not as popular as like Kenya. I feel like if someone says, I'm doing work in Africa, it's like Kenya.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And or
That's like
Uganda.
The darling.
Yeah, like, and I mean, so if you're like, I'm in South Sudan, well, that's not sexy. It's dangerous. It's not green.
And it's not just the place. The work itself doesn't really fit, again, nicely on a poster. There's no 5-word slogan that says, we gave a kid a notebook and a reason to stay in school. Like, if I say that, even here, like, talk to kids about trying to stay in school. If they've decided they're not going to be in school, how do you market that? Like, stay in school, and it makes a big difference. I mean, if you've had any education, you know that education is crucial, but it's harder when you start talking cross-culturally. There are so many pressures on kids that from a war-torn place. Fathers are gone. Like there's a lot of different things. And I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in any of that, but I will say there are a lot of kids. And what's really neat about Alabaster is they really invest in women. They invest in women in the community and we'll see. I'll show you all of that because Shannon's got this down. She's really impressive. So I can't wait for you to hear more from her.
Like, oh, you're giving water to people. What are you doing? I'm healing like a busted foot. Like, that's just not.
Yeah.
This person has pneumonia. Okay, not exciting.
Yeah.
What's Ash doing? He's giving little blue notebooks to kids. Like, that's not. People are like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So it's just a weird. To me, that's like super weird. Like, hi, your dollar can go so far here.
So these things go underfunded, not because they matter less, but just it's harder to see. And here's what I actually believe. The quiet structural work of nonprofits like this is the work that actually lasts. They're investing in an infrastructure and they're setting up a whole thing from kids from very young to go through a process. It just doesn't often get the spotlight that I think it deserves. And because nobody has made it super easy to understand, because it's not exactly easy. Again, education makes so much sense. And if you understand it, yes, you're in. But if you're trying to fund it cross-culturally in the light of war-torn things, and maybe it's not fully solved, and what are we supposed to do, and things are question marks, it can be a little tougher sell. Okay, so after these first meetings, the big thing is that there's not a lot of systems. That's what I'm kind of finding out. They don't have things together like who their average donor is. And they know who their average donor is. The great thing that we found out from just a little bit of information is that all of their donors are personally connected with them, which is impressive. It really is. And they're doing phenomenal with that. But one of the things we need to do is start scaling things. So we've got to build some systems that don't require their personal touch on absolutely everything so that we can expand a little faster. So I've got some big things against us. It kind of feels like Everest, but that's not uncommon. So it feels similar or how it's been in the past. So a little comfortable, even though it's a massive thing. So do me a favor, follow along. This is episode 2. Follow Alabaster International so you can see what's going on. And next week, I'm going to tell you about the campaign. Here we go.